for.
See, but
and I just want to say this.
What you
talk
want
to
to
him.
say?
Hold on.
What you want to say?
Talk to him,
I just
Shell.
want to say this because
Talk to him, Shell.
I
Talk to
heard
him.
a little
Talk
bit
to
of
him.
one-upsmanship,
Mhm.
a little bit of arrogance,
Mhm.
in the conversation from some of the bros
Talk to him.
that they have been married, that those marriages are intact, and that 30 years in, 28 years in, brother called yesterday, said he had 41, and there's like a little bit of shade being thrown at Jermaine
Thank you.
because he's
a
divorced.
lot of shade.
A
Wasn't a
whole
little
lot.
bit.
Yeah, and I just want to say this
Because Jermaine been married twice,
yeah, it don't matter.
What you talking about, Willis?
It doesn't matter because my thing is this, and and I felt this in the car. It's people that have been married for all those years, but it don't mean it's a good marriage.
Yeah.
It don't mean it's a happy marriage.
Yeah.
My mother stayed married forever to somebody that was whooping her behind, and because it was frowned upon to get divorced, and there are some folks been getting cheated on their entire marriage. It ought to be 3 people on top of the cake. You, him, and her.
Yeah.
Or you, him, and him. Whatever the situation is. I'm just saying, it's people out here beating their chests all proud, but like if somebody came in and really got the damn looking around, that marriage ain't all it looked like. So we got folks sleeping in separate bedrooms, not because somebody snore, but because houses is divided. So I'm just saying, people gotta do what's best for them.
You know what?
Who business you putting in the streets?
I'm just saying, hey, before folks start waving their hand, I've been in it for 40 years flag.
Come on,
all of that ain't good.
Yeah.
And somebody waiting for y'all to keel over so I can go ahead and live my life for real off your money. So I'm just saying,
everything that glitter ain't gold.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, there's a whole bunch of chest beating, and it's like if some of these people had some different options, you wouldn't still be at the table.
Or if they really knew, what that person was really thinking,
I just
you
said
would be
I'm
at the
waiting
table.
for you to. I'm waiting for you to take your last
if you
breath.
really knew,
because I'm gonna live my life like Jill Scott said, and it's gonna be golden. But I'm gonna need your money and your pension to be able to do that because I gave up so much of my life messing around waiting on you.
See, that's where that keeping it real comes from, right?
I'm just saying. I was listening to it, and I said, "There's 2 days in a row."
See, man,
they done got at this boy about
like
this whole. I'm still married. I'm still married. Hey.
Okay, Michelle.
All that glitters.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Shell.
You know the man's a musician. He plays for weddings. He plays at a wedding.
Come on, man.
Nah, we ain't doing that.
Thank you.
I know where you're going.
He trying to divert. He trying to.
He want to divert. Divert.
No, we ain't doing that crossing guard.
No, I don't need no diversion.
That's what you was getting ready to do.
I'm firm in my manhood,
marriage
and all of the above.
Ain't got nothing to do with none of this.
My marriage and all of the above.
Sound like Meech. Your manhood ain't got nothing to do with none of this. I'm saying get off people because they've chosen to do something different. And all this chest
thumping. Are you sure it was their choice?
It don't matter. However it went down.
It was my choice.
People, all this chest thumping that I've done with other you.
Oh,
you
I can't wait till Keith gets here.
I've been
Thank you, Shell. I appreciate it.
I'm just saying it's a whole bunch of unhappy ass married people.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just saying that.
A whole heap of them.
And you stay married for a bunch of reasons to the point of Keith, and it's a contractual situation. In some cases, there's a whole bunch of reasons why people stay married, and it ain't all based on,
love and happiness.
Thank you very much.
because you find yourself
I
in your
just been
Luther.
listening to that for the last several days, and I'm like, I'm about sick of this.
Something going wrong.
Yeah, man.
Someone on
like
the
I
phone.
said,
pretty soon,
and some of them sisters know it's you, she, and he on the cake. That's why your marriage stay together too. Because folks got stuff to do outside the marriage that keep them entertained. So now that I spoke my piece,
yeah, you really did speak your piece.
Debo,
can I say good morning now?
Hey, Debo, what's that
went
song?
south. Huh?
What's that song? You, me, and him.
What is it?
No, you, me, him to me.
You,
me, and she. What
we gonna do, baby?
Yeah.
I don't want to let her go. No.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shell, I appreciate you because I was over here taking heat from these guys, man, because I
was
said
slapping you around.
They was doing me wrong, like they had the glove on.
Is he the one to take the advice from? Hey,
I mean,
don't get mad at me because I preserved my damn sanity.
Thank you.
Don't get mad at me because I made some choices that was healthy for
me. Let me say this about me, if you will allow. I will not make myself miserable for my kids, for my wife, for nobody. If I'm not happy, I'm out.
Well, because the house ain't gonna be happy. We appreciate all that.
I'm just not gonna do it.
I'm just saying. Well, it just sounded a little one-sided. Like
Bap said, I wonder how this topic came up first thing in the morning.
Yeah, because it's left over from this foolishness that's been happening at the beginning of the Key Show for the last 2 days, and I'm listening like, now look here, we're gonna stop whooping up on folks that chose to get a divorce.
Thank you.
We're gonna stop.
Thank you, because I was.
Hey. No explanation required.
Sure you were, Jermaine.
No explanation required.
I mean,
I'm just saying
it's both sides.
Yeah, everybody gets to make choices, and I'm either less than or better than because of what those choices look like.
Neither of the two.
Hey, but this is the thing. Even though it went a way that I didn't expect it, I still stand on principles and I still stand on morals. So I still believe in doing right by my significant other. Now, everybody else outside of this marriage thing is different. But if I choose you, I chose you for a reason.
Right. No, I heard your conversation yesterday, and I laughed about my bank account and our bank account.
Oh yeah,
you hear it all.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna touch all of that.
That's almost like
folks
a
gotta do what they gotta do to maintain the peace in their household.
So can I ask you a question outright, Michelle? I know you. Whatever you either gonna tell me you're gonna answer it or you're not, and I know you'll tell me the truth, whatever it is. In your marriages, did you have your own personal account, or did y'all put everything in one account and share monies?
So let me be clear. I will be crystal clear.
Oh, crystal clear.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So I'm always gonna have Michelle money.
Okay.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Okay.
Right.
So then that answered my question.
That is based in watching what my mother went through.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how much I love somebody or believe in and trust somebody,
mm-hmm.
you just never ever know.
But then, do you really trust them?
And again, somebody the comedian told a joke like, I'm not sure what this sister brings into a relationship.
Yeah.
I know what I bring into a relationship.
Right.
And I share that with brothers. Like, look, I just need you to understand, fam.
Right.
I saw some stuff coming up.
Right.
Don't never want to be in that situation.
That's different.
Love you to death, fam.
Yeah. But I need my.
But there's always going to be some Michelle money. Put to the side.
That answered my question.
So question for you, Debo and Seth. Would you guys be opposed to signing a prenup? Because it's the same thing.
I mean, I'm never signing a prenup.
But it's the same thing.
No, I mean, well, yes and no.
When you say same thing, because elaborate.
It's not.
My money is my money and your money is your money.
No, I mean, a prenup does so much more than that, though. Because
I know,
depending on what's in the prenup.
I know, but
it's not just about financial.
I know.
Gain. But, we're talking about property and houses.
I get it. But financial gain is still included in it.
Future earnings, retirement, 401ks. So it just depends on what you're talking about. But I'm not doing all of that.
But if you don't trust a person, and I'm not saying that you should, because I do agree with having rainy day money. You just never know.
And I'm gonna be honest. I like having money that I ain't got to talk to you about what I'm getting ready to buy. I saw this pair of shoes that cost $600, and we're not getting ready to have this conversation.
Well, yeah.
I want to buy them, so I'm buying them.
Now, if you are a responsible mate and you're not taking away from the money for the bills and money for the house, and we going in debt and all that, man, go buy, look good, splurge.
Yeah, I mean, but you need to understand who you married to coming out the gate, and a lot of people don't have those financial conversations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in, you figure it out later. Oh, this chick or this bro run through all your money.
Yeah,
put us in a real bond or situation.
I don't think the number one cause for marital problems is cheating. It's
money.
It's money. Without doubt. Keith Pierce, don't let those Negroes take you down the rabbit hole.
Talking to me.
Wow, he got the biggest shovel ever sitting there on the open show.
I think Debo had a big shovel yesterday.
Well, I'm just saying, I've been listening to it for a couple of days, and I'm like, you know what? When I get an opportunity, I definitely am getting ready
now,
to weigh in.
Babs said every woman should get a prenup.
Every woman should get one.
Every woman should get a prenup?
That's what it says here. Every woman should get a prenuptial.
So she's protecting her assets.
So this is the thing. With marriage, if they stand up and say we are one and we become one, how do you become one if you're protecting?
I mean, but the reality is, like, even on this money piece, this is going on forever.
Right.
Women have always had a coffee can with a few extra dollars in it. Right. And a lot of times back in the day, it was because women didn't legally have access to control finances. You know, we only were able to get credit cards in our names, like in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, women couldn't even open credit without getting permission from their spouses. Now, today, you know, you have those forms where your spouse needs to know what's happening. But like, we were legally prohibited from having credit in our own names, from having
you had to
bank
get permission
accounts
from your husband to do anything, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you basically were like a child. And so if your husband didn't sign off on it, you didn't get it. So that actually started a lot of women putting a little money aside.
And they bras.
And yeah, like I said, that coffee can or wherever.
Buried
because
in the backyard.
The way the society was set up, male dominated, patriarchal foolishness, women couldn't have access to money and resources. They had to wait on a man to be able to make major decisions and make major purchases and that kind of thing. So some of this is actually built into the DNA of being a female in America. We got somebody that's been on hold for a minute. Let's get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
Okay, I just want to weigh in on one thing about the marriage and money and all this good stuff.
You got us on speaker?
If you have money when you get married, I think you should do a prenuptial on both sides, because you're coming into this with money that you earned that they didn't partake in. That's one thing. You have to protect that. But once you get married, let's just look at your everyday average person. You have a bank account before you met this gentleman or this man met you. You should still maintain that account and then start a household account where each one of you put so much money out of your check in there to cover the household bills. And then you have another account. One is for bills, one is for vacation and emergencies. You know what I'm saying? And then if the marriage goes sour, I think forcing a person to stay in a marriage that's not happy is more damaging to the children and to everybody involved. But letting those kids know, I'm going to be there to take care of my responsibility as a man. That's all I have to say on it. I don't know if everybody agrees with it, but we all come from different tribes. We believe different things. But my call for calling in today is to say, our country's in a lot of serious trouble. We have a man that wants to be a dictator. He's taking money from babies, from food shares, cutting down Head Start, so he could pay $6 million to this El Salvador prison, and then he wants to send people over there. So either, I like what I heard on Al Sharpton's show. These Republicans and other people have prostituted themselves. Their talent, skills, the essence of who they are, to have a title. At the end of the day, your legacy will tell that story. Either Republicans get rid of those people, help them out, because they're scared. They don't know how to say no. So don't vote them back in. Get another Republican that wants to do what our country has been doing for years. Do bipartisan things where you work together for the good of the people. And my other comment was, I have a lot of senior friends that are complaining their rides are not showing up for them. They're canceling on them, doing all sorts of things. And it used to be, it was tied into your insurance some kind of way. So now they're paying $4 to get their thing canceled, or they sit for hours waiting on someone to pick them up. Now, anybody that's sitting on their tail, don't have a job, Become an entrepreneur. Set up something in your church, in your community organization, on your block if necessary. If you're in an apartment building and there's seniors in there, ask them, do they have rides? And let them know there's a responsibility to it. It's $4 to take you to and from your appointment. Don't overbook it, work it. While we sitting down here trying to figure out what Donald Trump is doing, we better be networking in our community and taking care of our business. And these young people, stop destroying. Stop messing up everything for your grandmothers and your aunties and cousins because could have walked to Walgreens but now can't because they're closed, because of you going in there thinking it's cute to take something that you did not pay for. Have a great day. I love my Black people, but we got to straighten it up. We're better than that.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Let me just quickly say that somebody had sent something saying women couldn't legally get credit cards until 1974. And I just want people to understand that some of these things that we're talking about, like I said, they are rooted in more than just personal philosophy and ideology. There are actual reasons, legal reasons, that we see some of the mindset and the mentality that we do. And when I talked about a woman having to have her husband's permission to be able to even get a credit card in the 1970s, before 1974, if you were a single woman, you almost always needed your father, brother, or another male relative to co-sign loans for you, even if you made more money than they did. If you were a married woman, you could not obtain credit cards in your own name. You could only get a card as Mrs. Darren DeBuck. And that's the way it would be on your credit card. And then no matter how carefully you paid the bills and managed the account, the credit history only accrued for him. So even though you're able to use this card, as you build up good credit and pay everything. So if I get my brother to sign a card, co-sign for me, all of that was given towards his credit history, not my own. And no matter, as a result, if your husband died or you divorced, it was nearly impossible for you to obtain a loan. If the couple applied for a mortgage, the bank often ignored the woman's income in deciding how much they could afford. The bank's assumption was that if the wife became pregnant, she'd lose her income, be forced to leave the workforce. And so just so people understand that this is my lifetime. I was in the 4th grade, I think, in 1974. So when I look at the stuff that my mother was doing, you know, this is based in fact. This is based in necessity that women had to have money put aside. This isn't all just about love and what went on. And let me just say this real quick. When we looked at what happened in terms of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974, which the women's movement was instrumental in pushing legislation. There was a woman by the name of Emily Card, Jean Hubbard, and some more folks whose stories became a part of the impact of women's inability to deal in the banking industry and the financial industry. So these things are actually based in real precedent, real history. And it's more than just I trust or don't trust you. But I'm telling you, in my lifetime, when I'm born 10 years earlier, as a woman, my mother couldn't have a credit card in her name. That's what I'm saying. So, you know, you got to understand the totality of the picture, not just the simplicity of if you trust me or I trust you. We had legal ramifications in relationship to this. You want to say something, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, this is really blowing my mind because I just now learning of, you know, everything that you just said as far as women being able to get it in the 1950s. But just listening to that told me that these people that are in power pretty much said, man, that the man credit is validated and they can vouch for that because they're men. And for the women, you're not responsible enough. So you need a man because we trust him because he's more responsible. That's what that sounds like.
I mean, the country was, you know, based in, like I said, a patriarchal system. Men ran everything. Men made all decisions. all of these fights for the women's right to vote and women to be able to get and secure, financing and loans in their own name. Like, this is all based out of the way this country was initially founded. Wow. And thank God we've been able to take advantage of laws to push the needle so that there is more equity. But like I said, I just was listening to some of it and I had to kind of laugh because I'm like, there's more to this than whether I trust you or don't trust you. And maybe, I don't know, with the exception of Jermaine, and I'm not sure what year Debo was born in, but like I said, some of this has been in our lifetime. I know for sure
66
mine.
for me.
In 66?
Yes.
So in your lifetime.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
If you was on the planet in 73, this was going on while you're a young person.
Mm-hmm.
That your aunts and siblings, sisters, moms, that this is what they were facing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure we said that. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hello, how you doing, Michelle?
Good. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, and I'm saying hi to all the staff and radio station there.
You got a soul speaker, bro? You got a soul speaker, bro?
Hold on, let me turn the radio down.
Turn the radio down. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we good.
Okay. I think this country, the DNA is rooted in the operation of this country, because you go back to slavery, it goes back to where, have you ever heard of stocks and bonds? It's like the slave that they sold was the stocks, and the bonds, what they were making was the property off the financial off the slave, and it goes back into, slavery. What I really think slavery is equal in equality. The Europeans don't want us equal to them. So they're fighting us for that, because they know that we are better than them in a lot of ways. You look at the health part of us. You put us in any sport, we're dominated, and they're jealous of that. And for the DNA of this country built on racism, I think this country is a business. Because of the fact of the way that the slave was being forced to work. They built this country off the back of our slavery. So, this country is a business, a racist business.
All right, bro. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. I will just take one point of exception before we go to break. Make sure we clear this up, though. When we talk about, and I get the premise about the example that was used about stocks and bonds, but just understand a stock is a share representing a piece of ownership in a company. So you have to be an enslaved person was not a company. An enslaved person was property. And so you got to make sure you understand the difference. I got where you was going with it and how you were able to leverage that property to be able, to start a company. You're able to secure loans based off that property, collateral, if you will, to be able to build a Harvard University or, some of these institutions. But just so we clear, stocks represent a share or a piece of ownership in a company. Enslaved people were not companies. They were property. Let me go to break. I'll be right back.
Bring gospel Easter bash. It's gonna be a bash you don't wanna miss. At Abundant Face, located at 7830 West Good Hope Road. The Captain Spirituals. Come on now, Spencer Taylor and the Highway QCs. The fabulous Lucky Brothers. Pastor Tim Rogers and the Phillips is gonna be in the house. Bishop Neil Robeson. Reverend Nrlb Bush and the Revived Son. Willie Rogers. Tiffany Terry, Willie Banks Jr. and the Messengers. Curtis Eubanks. Now get your tickets at the New It's Mortuary. Call 414-447-6.
To Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Got a caller who held through the break. Let's get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. This is Rick calling you long distance from Germany, sis.
What's happening, Rick?
I just want to say 1974 was a pivotal year in my life, but I didn't understand my mother's life and the life that my sister would live until between 1978 and 83. So you keep telling this story about financial independence. It needs to be told. Sister, I'm done.
All right. Thank you, bro. I appreciate the call. Make sure you continue. Take care of yourself. Cross those waters. Let me mention this. So, I'm still getting used to not working in the state capitol and not being on a campaign and not doing this like I got more free time on one level than I've ever had, even though I got all these projects going on the side. But late at night, I've been going and catching up on just all the stuff that I've missed over the last several years in relationship to basically being a workaholic. And I had not seen, I remember when it came out, the trial of the Chicago 7. But I had never seen the movie that was done. Alan Sorkin. It's on Netflix now. And I was like, oh, I don't care how late I stay up. I got time. I'm watching this. And I'm just going to tell people, if you have not seen this movie, I encourage you to do it. Better yet, read some of the ancillary work that surrounds the whole issue of the anti-Vietnam protests. I think my father was in Vietnam. My uncles all served in Vietnam. I remember the discussions, the consternation about people being drafted into a war that folks did not understand why we were there, what was going on. But that story, I'm not going to do a lot of details about it. I just wanted to bring it up because I want people, if you haven't seen it and you have a Netflix subscription, to check it out. But that story, it's talking about things that were happening in our lifetime that's still just so inconceivable to some of us. The Democratic National Convention was coming to Chicago. And there were activists that were anti-Vietnam that thought this is the perfect time to convene a group of activists, try to get some TV coverage to talk about the fact that they didn't believe we should be in Vietnam. And this was a loose group of people, same interests, different strategies and approaches, but we bringing them all together. Bobby Seale, who was a co-founding member or co-founder, I should say co-founder of the Black Panther Party, which was founded as the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. That was the name. Bobby Seale was not a part of any of this. He was in Chicago, in the area, to give a speech. He was in town for 4 hours. He had nothing to do with what ultimately ended up becoming a all-out melee riot. People were arrested. Folks were hurt. It just ended up being a whole hot mess, these protests. And the Chicago Police Department, as folks were, trying to round up who was responsible, they end up arresting Bobby Seale. And Bobby Seale is then included with them, even though Bobby Seale had pending murder charges against him in another state. Bobby Seale ends up getting dragged in with these other defendants, and he does not have an attorney. When they go to court, he's the only one that's bound over for trial. And so he's actually being kept in, no bond posted, because again, supposedly he's had murdered somebody and a police officer in another state, which ultimately he was exonerated from. They found he didn't do any of that. But what's so crazy is he's telling this Judge Hoffman, I got to remember his first name, hey, I don't have a lawyer, as you have me on trial now with a pending and possible 10-year sentence that could land me in jail for the next 10 years. I don't even have representation. And so the judge kept trying to tell him, make these other lawyers that's defending these other 7 your lawyer. And he was like, they not my lawyer though. So again, I'm not going to give it all, but there is one thing that I just have to, because Bobby Seale getting fed up. The judge is openly racist, openly ignorant in the way he is handling Bobby Seale. And at some point, Bobby Seale blows up and snaps. The judge kept holding him in contempt of court. And then finally, the judge tells deputies in the building to take Bobby Seale and deal with him and then bring him back. They walk Bobby Seale out of the courtroom. They take Bobby Seale in a room and beat the brakes off him. They then shackle him at the feet, the waist, his hands, and then they take a cloth and shove it in Bobby Seale's mouth, and then they tie his mouth up with another piece of cloth. And when they bring him, and the courtroom is sitting and waiting while Bobby Seale is being beat up. The judge just got everybody sitting there. Everybody know what's happening to Bobby Seale when he was being taken out of that courtroom. Everybody knew this man's getting ready to get beat up. They bring Bobby Seale back in. He can barely stand because they done beat him so bad. And he got this thing tied around his mouth. And you can tell, like, they have literally put something in this man's mouth and tied his mouth so he, forcibly has to breathe through his nose. So one of the lawyers says to Bobby Seale, can you even breathe? And Bobby Seale looking there. People were so outdone. You did this. The jury saw it. You did this, and sent the whole message. So at some point, the prosecutor, these people are so disgusted by this judge's behavior that they asked that Bobby Seale's case be severed from, because originally it was the Chicago 8. They asked that Bobby Seale's case be severed from the other 7 people. The judge has, since it's the district attorney that brings these charges anyway. And then after severed, no one ever seeks to retry Bobby Seale on this case, because one of the things that Bobby Seale stood up and said in court, I ain't had nothing to do with this. And you know I didn't have nothing to do with this. But you wanted to come get a big black guy connected to the Black Panther Party to add, to this case to make it more scary. Because these was a bunch of little white boy hippies, liberals, non-threatening, really. If you looked at all of them, none of them looked like killers or nothing crazy. No Son of Sam action. So you needed me as this black scary dude to add to the element to help you more easily convict these people. He said it in open court. And it is also during that time of the trial, because his trial was over 6 months long. Fred Hampton had been in court advising Bobby Seale because Bobby Seale didn't have a lawyer. Fred Hampton is assassinated during the trial. And so the whole thing it's a very interesting story if you've never seen it, if you don't know this piece of it. But when I tell you, I was just floored that they beat that man. And everybody knew they beat him and brought him back into the courtroom. And after he was severed from the case, the judge still wanted him to do time in jail for being held in contempt of court 4 times. Ultimately, all that got reversed. But the way people could openly treat black folks, man, and Bobby Seale is still around. Bobby Seale is 88 years old. And so I even wonder for him to be able to go back and watch this and see this whole story and to talk to Bobby Seale about his recollection of what went on. But I just had to mention that. And somebody said, Michelle, it's called the trial of the Chicago 7 is what it's called. Yes.
So is the judge still alive?
No, I would assume, and let me see, because it was Judge Julius Hoffman. No, he died in 1983. He died in 83. He actually was born in 1895. He was born in 1895, died in 1983. But he was a whole hot mess. A whole hot mess. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you. Yes.
They say that King's assassination was more around his opposition to Vietnam than Memphis garbage strikes and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I think it was a combination. He certainly was ruffling feathers around Vietnam, but King's message had also shifted. It wasn't just about civil rights; it was about economic rights. When he said America has written black folks a check that was marked insufficient funds, so King has started talking about the economic parity or disparity in this country. So now you in people's pocketbooks. You ain't just talking about let me be able to sit at the counter and ride this bus and not get put off, even though I had paid my fare. But now you got these black workers who can't be elevated on the job. So you start messing around in people's pockets. So but the war certainly was something that people said they believe ramped up the idea that we got to get rid of this dude. He got too many people. And the thing about King that was interesting, what white folks feared, it wasn't that King had too many black folks listening to him. King had too many white folks listening to him. That could help impact laws, that could start calling congressmen, that could start demanding change. He had his base of support amongst white people was expanding.
And he had access.
Exactly. Even though we know now that Lyndon B. Johnson was actually on some BS on some cases because he was using King for his own needs. So I just wanted to mention that because that was, it was a whole lot to watch that movie. I couldn't shake off the beating. I just could, and that you brought him in court gagged. And it was okay. It was acceptable. No. And all the Black Panther members were sitting in the audience in the gallery, just like, what the? You could just see it on everybody's face. This is the 70s, y'all. You're just like, what is going on? So anyway, please check that out. Trial of the Chicago 7, if you haven't seen it. Now, let me do this for a second. Let me stop and give kudos, appreciation to Mr. Claiborne Benson over at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. And why? Why are we singling out Claiborne this morning? Claiborne Benson has made his way to this radio station a couple of times to flag for us that he was a part of some work being done to help preserve a building that had been built, designed by a famous Black architect. And in terms of its historical relevance, that we needed to fight to maintain that structure. But the Salvation Army, who had been planning to build a homeless shelter on that site as a part of existing property that they already owned, they wanted initially to tear that building down. And there were even a couple of folks in the city who had kind of flippantly said, well, doesn't this Black architect have other buildings around town? I mean, do we have to save this one? That was paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it. And so Claiborne had been going to the meetings about this. He had been drumming up awareness of the situation wherever he could go, and lobbying people to please not destroy this building. Is there a way to incorporate it into your design to do something, but don't destroy this building? So today when I opened the paper, I saw that a Milwaukee building caught between a demolition plan and an effort to save its historic landmark will be spared after its owner decided to renovate it instead of tearing it down. The building, part of the former Central City Plaza, Milwaukee's first Black-owned, Black-operated, and Black-designed shopping mall, was going to be razed by the Salvation Army, which wanted to build a homeless shelter and a resource center on the site. So there are some of you that will remember that this was a Black-owned, Black-operated, and Black-designed shopping mall. I never knew anything about this until Claiborne brought it to our attention. But spurred by the ensuing community dialogue, again,
that building was a liquor store.
I didn't know anything about it. The Salvation Army retooled the design of its project and will preserve the building. Quote, "We didn't know if we could make it work," said Rachel Stouter, a general secretary of the Salvation Army's Wisconsin division. "We spoke with our architect and they worked really hard to design what we believe is a really good solution." Tuesday, Milwaukee Zoning, Neighborhood, and Development Committee unanimously recommended granting historic landmark status to the building at 1747 North 6th Street and to the two nearby buildings comprising the Central City cluster. The proposal heads to the Common Council on April 22nd. The council most likely will approve it, given the committee's approval and the Salvation Army support. "My hats," quote, "my hats off to the Salvation Army for their willingness to switch gears and recognize the importance of this," said Chris Root, an architect and preservationist leading the Central City effort. Root got the ball rolling to save the Central City Plaza in December, eventually seeking to have blah, blah, blah. Wait, hold the hell on. Okay, because you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for Claiborne's name. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. I don't see it anywhere in here. I just see whoever this Root person is.
Wow.
But we ain't never heard from Mr. Root. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. Because yeah, you know, I know Claiborne. We heard him here on this station.
Yeah.
Was very, very vocal. And I'm not saying Mr. Root didn't do something, but Mr. Root didn't do this by himself. Y'all kill me. Y'all kill me.
And you know what? And if you didn't bring highlight to the situation, and for the people that didn't hear Mr. Benson on the station, they would think that that guy that's in that article was the only person that was pushing for.
Yeah, it's kind of raggedy, because I know that some of these people know that Claiborne was at the table as well talking to people, testifying, trying to rally people to come down and pay attention. And, so I appreciate Mr. Root's work. I definitely don't want to not acknowledge Claiborne Benson's work as well. And let me just look at this real quick. I'm looking for it. I can't find it. Yeah, I can't find it. I'm looking for something else. But we gonna make sure that everybody get credit. That should be getting credit for raising and flagging this, because like I said, I know who came to this station to alert the community to what was happening, to give us updates, and to make sure that we understood the significance of this project. And I remember saying right here on this station, when talking to Claiborne, can't they just incorporate it into their design? And I made the example that when I went to Minnesota, where Lakeisha had her kidney transplant, she had to stay in this house after, or this clinic area or apartment, whatever this thing is called. She had to stay there for several weeks after the surgery. And when we were touring it, it was a section of this development that you could tell was clearly older and historical, that had been owned by one of the doctors who was critical to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And they built around it and incorporated it into the design. So you could walk in through that house and out into the newer structures. So, Mr. Root, appreciate you, bruh. But Claiborne, thank you so much for all the work that you did to help bring this to our attention. All right, y'all. I got a caller. Let me get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Hey, what's going on? I didn't even realize you was on the line. What's happening, Lakeisha?
Yes. I was calling in to say yes. Going back to your conversation about 1974 and women being able to get credit cards, there's a deep connection to that. If you go and what they're trying to pass in Congress today, that will roll back some of those protections, even for voting rights. So there's you can draw a straight line from then to now with that particular piece of legislation.
Wait, can you say that part again? Because the phone kind of went out. Say that part again, because the phone kind of went out when you were talking.
The SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act, okay.
Yes. So they're talking about married women who have changed their name.
Right.
Not being able to vote. That is a rollback of a protection that was enshrined basically when women got the right to vote. So look at other things that could peel back those rights as well for women, where you would need protection from a man to do something.
Got it. Okay. And yeah, and I know we had talked about, all the hoops you had to go through to prove the name changes from what was on your birth certificate to you taking on your spouse's name. And in my case, being married twice, if I had taken the names, all this paperwork I got to produce to be able to continue to vote. So yes, thank you for drawing that line. I wanted to talk to you real quickly again about the trip to Chicago. I've had a number of people reach out to me. First of all, a number of people who had said that they had never even imagined that there was a Black opera that had been done, and that were asking. Some people even said, like, how does she even know that this trip was that this performance was happening? And so I said, when you got a chance, I wanted to ask you about it. And even people were calling, like, do you have to dress up for the opera? So it was kind of funny. And I said, let's get her back on and she can answer some of those questions. So question number one, how do you know about this Black opera?
Well, first of all, I'm a theater lover myself. So I love going to the theater, going to opera. I visit Florentine when they, here in Milwaukee, when they have different performances. And in Chicago, they have a deep theater district. So I follow like the Goodman Theater and Harris Theater. And when I saw that the Harris Theater for Music and Dance was producing Tremonisha, I got really excited because I've never seen Tremonisha. Very few people have seen Tremonisha because it has not been, there's not been live performances of it ever, really. So this is a rare occasion that someone has gotten Tremonisha. So I'm like, okay, this is great. I need to tell other people about this and have people go and have this experience with me. So that's the first thing. like you said, Scott Joplin wrote Treemonisha in 1910. It was first produced in the 1970s for stage. And so it was first performed in the 1970s and has been done sparingly since then. I think they had a production in Houston, maybe one in Detroit a couple times, and at the Kennedy Center in D.C., maybe in the 90s. So this is one of those rare opportunities that people have to see it. So that's the answer to the first question. And the second question about dressing up, you can dress up as much or as little as you want to. These days, it is not as stringent as far as, tuxes and tails that you have to go to the opera these days. So dress up as much as you want to. If you want to wear your ball gown, bring it on. Let's go. Yeah, put it all on. It's about us. We do us. So yeah, put it all on. Come right on.
And so these performances are actually happening over at the Harris Theater May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Yes.
For folks that aren't able to go, because what you did too, which was to say, look, I want somebody to go with me. So I will figure out a way for folks that want to go. We can all ride together, do this whole thing together. But there is a cost to do this. And I know that a couple people have reached out and caught some sticker shock because they're like, this costs $165. What do people need to understand about that $165?
That $100 of that is your performance ticket. That's what you need to understand.
This performance is so rare that ticket cost is $100.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And so then the rest is the transportation over. You got to worry about parking.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about parking, all of that. So yeah.
Dropped off at the door, picked up at the door, so that aspect of it. So for people, yep, I see your text message. So for people that are still interested, can you give some contact information and when you're going?
Absolutely. Our trip over to Chicago will be Friday, May 2nd. We are leaving from the Bayshore Park and Ride at 4 p.m. to make sure we get to the pre-performance reception by 6:30. We got to fight that Chicago traffic. So we'll be leaving from the Bayshore Park and Ride on that day. If you are interested in going on the trip, you can reach out to me at area code 504-814-0664. 504-814-0664.
And I just want to make sure that people understand this is not a money-making venture. It's not a fundraiser. It is simply about getting Black folks exposed to things that we otherwise might not get a chance or opportunity to do. And so I just have to say that and stress that unequivocally. Nobody is making a dollar in relationship to this. This is about culture, doing it for us. Again, introducing people to things that they have never, ever seen before. And when you realize that it had been shown in 72 and only one or two performances of the show since then, this is a major opportunity. So thank you so much for making time to call us this morning. I wanted to go back and hit that for people who hit me with a ton of questions. And I'm like, y'all, I ain't know nothing about it. I learned about it on the radio the same way you did.
Like you did.
So thank you so much, Dr. Myers. We appreciate you and talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, family, let me take a break. And when we come back, got to talk to none other than Wanda Montgomery from Black Childhood Development Institute. And I know I should say Wisconsin somewhere in there. She'll correct me when she comes on the air. But got to talk to her about an event that they have coming up as well. And with everything that's happening, I had the conversation yesterday about whether or not Head Start is going to be impacted. The Department of Education being gutted. When you think about a Black childhood development, these agencies will become even more critical than we ever thought as we try to fill the gap and stop the bleeding on some of the ways in which our children are being harmed academically. Be right back, y'all.
Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Before I went to the break, I told you that I was going to be welcoming a guest to the studio, and she has arrived. Looking like sunshine, got all kinds of educational materials with her. What's happening, Miss Montgomery? How you doing today?
I am doing well, blessed and highly favored, as some of my colleagues and friends would say.
Well, I don't know that. Have I seen you since the election? I think I owe you a congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Village President Brown Deere. I have not seen you, but you got a whole bunch of hats that you wear. You are here in a different capacity today. Tell folks what organization you represent.
So I am here as a founding member of Black Child Development. When we were founded in 1995, chartered in 1997, we were in Milwaukee, but in 2023, we expanded to Wisconsin.
Wanda, we have had this conversation before, but I've just got to, I think because right now, as I said, leading up into the to the discussion this morning, what we are seeing by way of attacks on basically Head Start, doors being shuttered at regional offices, and folks therefore who offer these programs saying we don't know if we can make payroll because a lot of this comes through federal funding. I don't know that everybody always appreciates what children get in Head Start. And then when we look at overall the threats to the Department of Education, the purpose for starting Black Childhood Development was what?
We started because, well, first of all, we're part of a national organization, but then we have affiliates, and now we are called villages all across the country. And our focus is really to drill in and support Black children and their families, because we knew that that's where disparities were 30 some years ago, and on a national level over 50 years ago. So we've been in existence to really support children and families in areas that they may not get the support that we know is important for them to be successful in life.
So like what are examples of that support though? What does that look like? How do people understand what services you provide?
So we've transitioned over the years, but most recently we are focused in 8 different areas.
Okay.
In Milwaukee, we know that we can't do everything. So we focus on pretty much 3 or 4 areas in Milwaukee or Wisconsin. Those areas are reducing infant mortality. It's around early care and education. It's around literacy, and it's supporting parents. And then all of that is engulfed in advocacy. How can we advocate on behalf of Black children and their families in those specific areas? Because we see in Wisconsin, that's where the highest disparities are. Infant mortality, those rates have come down a little, but they're still too high. And so what do we need to do to support families and provide the education and resources and connection to organizations that provide services that will help parents to see their baby? And I had a conversation yesterday with some of our staff. Infant mortality, they track it based on any child that does not make it to their first birthday. So if they don't make it to their first birthday, that becomes one of the numbers that they identify as a fatality in infancy. It could be SIDS, it could be accidental death, it could be they were born at low birth rate or born with some other type of deformity. It could be that they were abused or neglected and they died. Whatever it is, if they don't make it to their first birthday, that then becomes a part of that statistic. And unfortunately, Black and brown babies have the lion's share of those numbers.
So I was looking at some of the data, and it says, just for an example, out of every 1,000 live births, for Black children that will die in that first year of birth, in that first year of life, that's roughly around 11 children. 10.9%, I think, was the stat. So roughly around 11 kids will die. In white communities, that's roughly around 4 children that won't make it the full term of 1 year. And then you listed off all these different reasons and rationales why that can happen. But, I looked at some data the other day that said that a woman that's Black coming to this country from another country, like just say coming from the continent of Africa, that her, and if she comes and she's pregnant or she gets pregnant right away, her baby also will have mortality rates like white women.
Right. And not us.
And not us. And so, I'm like, so this isn't necessarily just about Blackness, like it's something genetically going on with us. But then they said, but if she stays or her children then have children,
and they go back to the rates.
They go back to what we are suffering.
Absolutely.
And then they brought in like all these external factors that, impact us. So this is not a genetic, situation that we're facing, that these are environmental conditions that can also contribute to this number.
They're environmental, and it could be someone that has a high school diploma, could be a teen mom, could be a woman with a PhD. In terms of Black women,
right?
Those rates are still high, and I mean, I can identify people right now who had multiple miscarriages before they had a live birth, and some of the challenges that they still may have had. We have higher rates of, and I don't have the numbers, but higher rates of women that have to have C-sections. Black women, they go through 24, 36 hours of labor.
Yeah, I did.
Well,
I did.
And end up with a C-section. And you have to ask yourself why.
Yeah, I did. And my mother, at the time, she was blown away because she was like, that shouldn't have been necessary. Right. So it really bothered her. I'll never forget that. That's crazy that you mentioned that.
And I have a niece who was now a nurse practitioner, but her first birth, her first child, I was leaving town that morning going to Gary, Indiana, and she was in the hospital in labor. We came back that night. She was still in labor. And I said, what is going on?
Right.
I went to the hospital, and she was at Sinai, and went in the room. And everybody was standing around, and they talking and trying to give her advice. And I looked at them. I said, all y'all need to leave. Y'all been here all day, and she haven't had the baby. I talked to the doctor, and the doctor said, she can have this baby. She was fighting against it. And so I stayed, and she said, I want to see something. I said, no, you don't.
Right.
I stayed in there, talked her through. Her mama left the hospital. I was still there. She had that baby in an hour.
I mean, and it's the truth though, because I remember as a young teen mom, the idea of pushing this baby out, like, and I know I was fighting. I knew I was fighting.
Right.
They did the birthing chair, which I think was relatively new at that time. They did all of this stuff, and then finally the doctor said, "Now look here, we can
right.
be in a
because
situation
because your life is at risk."
So okay, so given everything that we see happening around us, when you see the very name of the organization implies a relatively specific focus.
Oh yeah.
And as people have had, grant opportunities, research dollars, whatever ways in which local, state, and federal organizations can help support the work of groups, we are now beginning to see some of that fall back.
Yes.
But the work still has to happen. So you all have always figured out ways to either supplement dollars, self-fund, create, revenue streams to be able to support that work. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Right now, Black Child Development has most of our funding is through private foundations.
Okay.
National. We do have one of our grants that is federal, and that's reducing infant mortality.
Okay.
We have not heard anything about whether or not that's going to be cut back. We're continuing to do the work. It's a 5-year contract. But
let me just say this, because I know that I saw that on April 10th, The Trump administration was getting ready to turn their focus towards health.
Oh yeah,
health serving organizations, health related grants and dollars,
and hospitals. I mean,
right.
This is so much of an overreach into every. It makes you. I said something yesterday. I said I've lived a little while now, and I have never. If I wasn't seeing this with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. But when you see somebody that is that evil, because that's what it is, he's evil. And they must have all went in a room somewhere before the election and said, if we get this, we're going to tear down everything. It's like we're going to tear down the whole structure and we'll build it back the way we want.
Right.
And in the meantime, all of y'all that died by the wayside.
Yeah.
So what?
Oh, yeah. It's collateral damage.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for us, by us, we have spent years. We have a strong volunteer base. We have community people that support us. I've built relationships over the years. I call people up and say, I need this, that, and the other. But what I will tell you, even this radio station has been a tremendous support. That's why, for those of y'all out there saying, why not on the radio again? Yes, because it works. I'm telling you, I was here Friday morning to talk about infant mortality, and I got to church on Sunday, and one of our mothers, who probably didn't know nothing about Black child development, when I got, and she's had some challenges, and she probably listening now, Mother Katie, if you out there, I'm talking about you. But when I got to church, she said, wait a minute, come here, I got something for you. And I'm like, huh? I got some money for you. And I'm thinking, why is she giving me money? And she said, I heard you on the radio. She said, and here's $50 to buy some books. And then we got a check in the mail from somebody else who's a part of was one of our founding members, sent us $1,000. So every little bit helps. Now I won't say we're frugal, but we try to manage the resources that we have. We're not going out spending, tons and tons of money. So we've been fortunate in that way. And we've done a bunch of books where we don't charge parents to come, but we raise the money. We have a calendar of Black children that we sell every year. We sell those, but what we found is we've been able to get sponsors that will pay for all the printing, or this year we're going to offer ad space in the calendars. Okay. So you can be in a month and pay us, and that helps us to cover for the printing. And then all of those funds come back to us. We have our Gala coming up, and that is on May 1st. And we have it on our Facebook page, our website, but we want to share with the community that, and I know people got all kind of things, all kind of fundraisers going on, and I see them from $300 to $500 to $100. Ours is $150. But what we do with that is it helps to sustain our organization, but we give back to the community. And what we want to be able to do is eliminate those barriers. I can't afford to pay. I can't buy my child these books. I can't attend a session that you all are having. And so we raise those dollars to be able to give back. I'm just looking now. Right. The books that we buy are books that are written by Black authors that tell stories, well, most of them, but tell stories about our Black children, how it's positive, it's reaffirming, it's showing them themselves in books. And I shared this the other day. We get people to donate books all the time, but they want to donate the books that their kids have already read. And I'm not opposed to that. But I got hand-me-downs all my life. So I want to,
It's nothing like getting your own book.
Put your name in it.
That and I had to smile because you came in with 3 books, and one of which I was super excited to see because our very own Vivian King here in the city of Milwaukee, Masara.
Miss Vivian, I got your book with me.
I actually saw her not too long ago on television talking about this book. Grace Welcomes the Lady Next Door. And I was blown away. I was like, Viv. I mean, because I think her first book, When the World Stopped,
right,
was like it took off
told
right
her
away.
story.
Yes.
Right. And this and guess what, y'all? It's an easy read. I done already read it. I can tell you the whole.
It's a beautifully done children's book. We see representation. We see, the message in it, which is about loss, change, being able to accept different things that happen in life. But then, you come in with the book that's true to my heart. Talking about politics.
Yes.
Speaking of America, but a children's focused book.
Yes.
Written by a former reporter, New York Times bestselling author, Jared Cohen. And it lists every single president that we've had today. And it talks about, in a child-friendly way, who they were or what their major, contribution was or what they were known for. So this book, I'm like, okay, I'm getting this book. And then I had a chance to look at a book that Dr. And then at the time, State Representative Lakeisha Myers, as a part of Black History Month programming, was over at the Rooted bookstore. Yes. And had the author Maya Payne Smart, who had written the book, A Literacy Action Plan from Birth to Six. I was blown away by this book.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown away. So these are the kinds of resources that folks have access to. And if I had to buy these books, I'm probably looking at $100 worth of books.
Yes, ma'am.
In just these 3 books.
Yes.
So these are things that can be somewhat prohibitive if I got to make a decision between groceries, childcare. Now that,
right, Head
Start is being impacted, I may have to pay for additional childcare hours that you all are making accessible to people.
Absolutely.
So let me do this real quick. Let me take a quick break. I hear the music. Let you come back. Tell people how they can support, how they can get tickets to the gala, and anything else we need to understand about the important work that you all are doing and how we benefit as a community.
Yes.
All right, family, we'll be right back. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You're listening to Say Something Real.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Finishing up an interview with none other than Wanda Montgomery over at the Black Child Development Institute, Wisconsin. Wanda, before we went to the break, I was asking you just to mention a little bit about the gala. There have been a couple of folks who hit me up and saying, Michelle, can you give some more information? I'm interested in going. So what should people understand?
So our gala is Thursday, May 1st at the Hilton downtown. Our theme, and I shared earlier what some of our areas of focus. This year, we're focusing on literacy. Our theme is building literacy, empowering futures, and not just futures of our children, but futures of our parents. This book that Michelle talked about, A Literacy Action Plan from Birth to Six, Maya Payne Smart, is going to be her and her husband, Shaka Smart, Marquette's basketball coach, are our champions for the event. Every attendee, her second book, which is a revised version of this book, will be coming out on April 29th. And so we have 250 copies that we will be receiving that week. She will be signing her books, and every attendee will be able to get a copy. We will have a silent auction with some fabulous items. One item will be presented from me. It's called Black Mama's Rock, which is my side business. People say, you doing it? I do. I stay busy. But it will have a handmade throw. It will have an apron with Black Mama's Rock on there.
Black Mama's Rock.
Right.
What?
If you read my book, that's the next phase after my book. But anyway, but it will be Thursday, May 1st. The tickets are $150. We have Cigarette Break, who will be our entertainment during our reception. So we'll have a cocktail reception with appetizers, a sit-down full meal. So it will be a night that we hope people will come out and support. That $150 will help us to continue to do the work. If you can't come, but you know you got $150 that you can give, sponsor a parent to come. We will have some children there that night. We are WNOV is our media sponsor. So they will be there that night. We also, I'm giving 4 tickets that Michelle will have. You can call in her show today or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. As long as these 4 tickets are here, I would say give them out in pairs.
Yeah.
But we know that there are listeners out there that have disposable income, even in the midst of all of this, because you manage your money and you want to support a Black child or their parent. I would encourage you to support this event. And I know I've gone to a whole lot of things. I spent a lot of money doing things for a lot of different people. And I would just say, this ain't for me. It's for the children in this community where we have our focus, where we do our programming, and we just invite you to support us so we can keep giving them books and we can keep holding the bunch of books at no cost to parents.
And let me just tell you, 2 things. I have a personal connection to the work that you do. Number one, going back to my time as the executive director of African World Festival, I mention this every time I see you. But when I would tell you, we would have that children's corner at African World Festival, and we would have cases of books being delivered at no charge to us, which in turn meant we were able to let children who came to the festival leave with books that they had selected.
Yeah,
that was like crazy. I know the work that you did with Keon Jackson Malone as a part of the work he did in the community. And he would get cases of books from you and he would call me so excited, like, man, I got these books for these babies.
Yes.
Wanda came through, and so, this is at no cost to us.
Right.
And we're able to, it helps the organizations that we work with look good, quite frankly, because we're helping to meet this need, but we're able to get this directly in the hands of folks that we actually know that are going to benefit. So that's one thing that, has stood out. But the other is that when it just comes to, and we talked about this whole piece during the break just a moment ago, relationships. And this is a for us by us moment in that, I've been sounding the alarm. I'm worried about historically Black colleges and universities. I'm worried about our, little Beckham Little League baseball may not be getting some of the funding that they were getting previously, as corporations and individuals, because of DEI attacks, feel that they have to step away from these things. And so it's going to be pressed upon the community to step up.
Absolutely.
And I tell folks all the time, we let other folks handle our business. We got to step in and handle our own. And so, yeah, but I honestly, I learned about giving from watching so many other people. My child has been the beneficiary of these gifts. I look at a Jeanette Herrera who goes in her own pocket, where she calls people and says, hey, help me put together $500 scholarships to give to these kids. We watch it happen every day.
And guess what? We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do a lot more than what we do.
Right.
I do want to just mention, you talked about Head Start. Head Start is usually 3-4-year-olds.
Right.
There's also an early Head Start, which is for babies. Oh, yeah.
Really?
There's an early Head Start, which is for babies.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. So when we talk about the impact, so there are people that have their babies in early Head Start, and they may be in childcare programs that have that contract. But it is so much that is going on. We as they say, follow the money,
right?
Because there are a lot of things that have been funded in our communities: food pantries, Head Start, child care. They're cutting back the child care support dollars. People can't afford that.
Well, I had somebody who sent me a text message over this past week, and they said, Michelle, places that they know that they work with that have had food available for folks.
Yes.
So whether these trucks come in, FDA, or however these things are happening, that for the last 2 weeks, there's been no food.
Yes.
And people have shown up because this was the ritual. You knew that you could get supplemental.
You could count on it.
Yep. And they said that, now they basically are looking at these folks like these shipments are not coming anymore.
What I will say, to get tickets, you can go on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, or on our website, which is bcdi-wisconsin.org, or you can Google me, text me if you got my number. Our office number is 414-236-5641. Tickets are still available. We want to pack the event that night. Our goal is 200. That's not a whole lot of people, because I just saw, and I ain't gonna call them all out, I just saw some events on Facebook, people, and I don't knock it, because I know that their goal is, we're all trying to do things to support our community. And so that's why I'm here. And people say, will she be there? She got this guy. One thing, if you don't know about me, what my life work has been is impacting children, specifically Black children, and our name ain't changing.
All right.
We ain't DEI. We Black.
I love it. I love it. All right, family. So I'm going to take a quick break. But again, to remind people, Wanda was gracious enough to leave 4 tickets. So we will give them away in pairs. And somebody actually already texted me while we were sitting here saying, I need a sponsor. So somebody already hit me up. So I think I will hit them right away and let them know that they can get a pair of tickets, and we'll have another pair that we can give out next week. I look forward. I'm planning on attending, so I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for the work. And I know you're running to your next event, your next appointment.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, y'all. Let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Yeah.
on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So just got a couple of minutes left, and let me just take a second. I appreciate Wanda coming through. And yep, I do have a pair of tickets for anyone that is interested in attending. This sounds like it's going to be a really cool event. But if what my brother say to me, so you're not going to say nothing about Brett Favre running for governor of Wisconsin? You're not going to say nothing? Look, story came out in the paper. There's some folks in the background. A lot of people that run for office are actually recruited to run for office. Now, predominantly that's women, where folks will say, hey, you know, there's a seat that's going to be vacant, or we think you'd be great at this job, and they recruit people or get recruited to run for office. Men, not so much. Bros can wake up, scratch their head in the morning and be like, I think I want to be the president. Just call and ask Stephen A. Smith, who literally just got done saying a couple of days ago, I have no other choice but to consider running for president of the United States. Boy, please. You are reading your own headlines and that mess you're doing over at the little sports network. That does not translate standing policy and being an effective leader. You anyway, up on the scuttlebutt about whether or not Brett Favre is planning to have a future in politics in Wisconsin. Some of this is fueled by the fact that Brett Favre, who I think is now safe to say Republican, Brett Favre, has been at a number of rallies and political events. He was trying to help Brad Schimmel, outstopping for him to get elected to be the justice on the Supreme Court. Thank God that didn't happen. And, you know, so he's been definitely dipping his toes in politics and trying to weigh in, use the influence, because other than him being an NFL player, don't nobody care what Brett Favre think. Like, you've not demonstrated you're somebody who was politically astute or who had a whole bunch of depth on the issues. Your name and the sport is what gets you invited in the room, quite frankly. And so folks are saying, you know, we're trying to get Brett Favre to run for president. For governor of Wisconsin, because they realize that they got a problem on the Republican side in terms of somebody that has appeal. This is a swing state. It is a purple state. We will vote for Barack Obama and Scott Walker in the same election cycle. That's what we do. So who can knock Tony Evers off the perch? We need a personality. We need a name. Brett Favre could be that person. So Brett Favre has told people that he is not interested in running for governor, but of Wisconsin. But, you know, he has been kind of looking at if there's something for him to do in politics. I'm just going to say this. As someone who was a huge fan of Brett Favre, the football player, the quarterback, I am not impressed by Brett Favre, the man. You're a damn thief. Period. You intentionally were a part of a scheme that stole money from the poorest people in the state of Mississippi to get credit for helping to build a athletic field that your daughter was connected to, when you could have easily went to big money donors and helped got that field built. You're a damn thief. And some of the other things that you've been connected to since your departure from Green Bay, I don't care how many black football players they can line up to say what a good dude you was and a great leader and you thought about the people and blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to hear none of it, Nathan. Zero. None of it. Because I believe that the individual that we see in now is more closely aligned to who you really are. That's what I believe. And so when you look at some of the policies that he's, you know, tried to speak to, whether it has been abortion or, you know, gender identification, there's a lot about Brett Favre that leaves to be desired. So I would just say to Republicans, run him, and see what happens. Run him. Because people and this is the sad part. This is the sad part. I was about to say people understand when folks are shady. They do. But what too many Republican voters have been willing to do is ignore that because they believe I'm going to get something out the deal. I'm going to get something. So you can be shady as long as it does not impact me. But when I tell you I will be out on the front of the bandwagon, leading the chorus against a Brett Favre gubernatorial run, and I think enough people have had a chance to see you post play to understand what type of dude you really are. But to be in that upper echelon of people that have financially done very well for themselves, and to be so greedy or lazy, whatever it is, that you thought it was easier to be a part of a scheme that will steal money from low-income families. Like, man, I ain't got no respect for that. Zero. And it's crazy to me how so many of the Republicans is some of the most trifling people you've ever seen at this national and federal level. The guy that Trump brings in to be the top guy in D.C. in terms of the judicial stuff, and you sitting up lying and leaving out that even in the last 2 years you've done more than 200 appearances. You're not telling nobody the truth. Like, all these people are sketchy with records or questionable ethics. So come on, Brett Favre, jump in there. We got something for you. With that being said, I'm going to wrap the show for this week. Let me thank my cohorts, the bros in the building. I appreciate you. And I'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Say something real. It is now time to take you live to the Northwest Funeral Chapel for a word of the good news and your Sunday school lesson with Brother J.C. Frazier. Brother Frazier, how do you feel this morning?
All is well, Mr. Debo. All is well. Good morning, Ms. Bryant. Good morning, everyone. This is J.C. Frazier with Northwest Funeral Chapel, inviting your attention to the following announcements. Funeral services for Mr. Parnell Hyman will be held on today at 2 p.m. at Northside Church of God. Funeral services for Mr. Justice James Sr. will be held on Saturday at 11 a.m. at Greater Little Hill Church of God in Christ. Memorial services for Mr. Gregory Patterson will be held on Saturday at 11 a.m. at St. Philip's Lutheran Church. Funeral services for Ms. Denise Carenia will be held on Monday at 1 p.m. at Northwest Funeral Chapel. Let us continue to remember in our prayers the families of Mr. James Fortune and Mr. William Wilson.